Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. You know, we do this yearly at the Netroots convention. This is Netroots 2024. And who am I with? I mean, the founder of all this stuff, man. You know, the founder of Daily Kos, El Señor Markos Moulitsas, man. How you doing, my brother?
I was going to give you a hug, but this hints, I can't do this.
Oh, okay. There we go. How you doing, my man?
Doing good, man.
This guy is the guy who created Daily Kos. And out of Daily Kos came, before it was called Netroots Nation, it was called
Yearly Kos.
Yearly Kos.
It's kind of creepy because that's my name, and I was like,
well,
can we change the name, please?
Well,
and,
you know,
I'm the terrible brander, right? Because a good brander would be like, that's like
yes,
gold. That's gold.
That's gold, man.
I couldn't do it, man.
Well, you know, that just speaks for you being a good guy. He's one of the good ones, you know. But anyway, look, Markos, we're in some difficult times, right? And earlier I was speaking to Mike Rogers of Raw Story and talking about AI, and we're talking about the conflicts within the progressive movement. We're talking about the conflicts within the right-wing movement. I mean, it's just looked like we are a bastion of chaos. Before we really get into what we want to talk about, what's your feeling of what's going on in America? And it's not one-faceted, single-faceted.
Yeah, I think fundamentally politics is broken.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little ironic because when Daily Kos came on the scene, we were representing the partisan left.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the media landscape, and you had Rush Limbaugh, and you had Fox News. There was no liberal voices anywhere, and conservative voices dominated the discussion,
right,
and even the Democratic Party.
Right.
And so we came in as sort of a counterpart and to create some kind of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And as a movement, I think we were wildly successful. We have that balance now. But now the result is utter chaos and division and rank partisanship. And not partisanship in the sense where you're like defending your values, but partisanship in that you're trying to one-up the other party and point out how stupid they are. And yeah, it's too easy. Like somebody said something stupid sometime, right? Great. How do we govern our country? And now we're at a situation where things like continuing resolutions, just to keep the government funded, have become partisan flashpoints and difficult to manage, and putting our country's credit rating at risk and at risk of default on the debt because of debt limit fights, and that is not sustainable. And what's happening is people are tapping out. People are tired. I think they're crawling to the finish line this November, and I absolutely get the sense that no matter who wins, people are ready just to be done.
Right.
They just ready to tap out and get their Taylor Swift news or whatever. And I'm not saying that derogatorily.
No, I know that. It's something easy to understand, something that doesn't take a lot of stress on you.
And we've been in fight or flight mode for 9 years now, since Donald Trump first came on the scene. And it's exhausting and tiring, and there's not a lot of hope. And nobody's looking at these candidates right now and going like, all right, I'm ready to fight for Joe Biden or even for Donald Trump. On the right, you see a lot of dissension with even Donald Trump.
Right.
Now, there's a sense that you have to fight for the team because the alternative is worse. And that's why I think that actually we have the upper hand in November because we have our rights are on the line. The conservatives really, I don't know what's the worst case that can happen if they lose? Like nothing, right?
Because the things that progressive promotes is not just for progressive, it's for everybody, right?
So they don't make up stuff like Dr. Seuss nonsense or like culture war. But really, there's nothing at stake.
I'm glad you said something. Oh, wait, go ahead. But
ultimately, I think people are feeling burnt out. And on the right, people are feeling burnt out because the Donald Trump movement is just horrible. They recognize this, right? And that's just why Nikki Haley was getting 30-40% of the vote in some places.
Imagine that.
But on the left too, it's if you're a normal Democrat, I live in the suburbs and I have my life and my kids, but I care about abortion rights and I care about the tenor of the president, like somebody who's not Donald Trump. I'm fighting the system, right? The system is so effed against people, and the Supreme Court's made it even worse now, right? Supreme Court's just like
it's not a Supreme Court anymore.
No, they're kings. They're kings, and they're overruling the legislature. It's absolute. So there's a feeling. There's always been the feeling that we're fighting against the system. You look to the right, you see a fascist right. It used to be Mitt Romney. He wants tax cuts for billionaires. It's like, oh, that'd be shitty. But that's like the end of it. Now we're like, democracy's on the line.
Right.
But also, you look at the left, and you have sort of this I call it the performative left. It's not the best word. I still haven't figured out how to really describe it. But people that would
I need to interrupt you. I think that word defines it perfectly because they perform. It's not like we support a whole lot of things like, oh, we are anti-racism, we are anti-LGBT, all that kind of stuff. But when internally, or we are feminists, when internally, a lot of times we don't support women. A lot of times we don't support people of color, even within our own party. So, I mean, when you say performative, yeah, we perform like we're doing things well.
It's based on, I feel better because I went out and I protested, whatever.
Right, exactly.
And I said that I wrote a book back during the Iraq War where I said the same thing.
Yes.
That performative, like all these protests, what did they stop the war? Did they do anything? No, George Bush got reelected.
Guys, you got to remember, by the way, that book that he's talking about is called The American Taliban. The American Taliban. I remember that well.
And so this notion that protesting does something is unless it has a strategy behind it.
Right.
So you look at the three most successful progressive movements in the the civil rights movement, very tactical.
Right.
Very tactical. The marriage equality movement.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They protested, but it's all within building support, right? And then the $15 minimum wage.
Yes.
Very, very successful. They're not out there pissing people off, shutting down bridges, yelling at passerbyers. Their whole way of doing work is how we can use protests to build awareness, but it's got to be done in a way that people want to join.
You have to have an off-ramp. Yeah, right.
And when you're doing it out of anger,
right,
just to feel better, you lose sight of that broader strategy, right?
Right.
And so, to me, that's why it's performative. It's just they're doing it to make themselves feel better or because it gives them social status in certain groups. But, looking at the Gaza movement, what have they accomplished other than piss people off and actually lose support?
Right.
Like if you look at polling, they've actually lost support. And wherever you stand on that issue, there's just no way you can look at this movement and go like, okay, they've been successful.
The interesting thing about it is I've been speaking to Jewish folks and others. Everybody basically stand on the same side with what Netanyahu's doing. I don't want to get this on a Netanyahu conversation because this is deeper than that. But the problem is exactly because folks have to perform, we can't get to where the truth really lies.
And if you're smart about this, calling Joe Biden, genocide Joe, first of all, you're not building support, you're not doing it, and it's not even accurate. But here's the thing, Bibi wants Joe Biden to lose.
Yes.
Joe Biden has no power because whatever Joe Biden wants to happen, which is a ceasefire, Bibi's like, no, because that's going to help Joe Biden. And I want Donald Trump to win. Donald Trump will go in and help bomb Gaza. Right. So it's this lack of strategy and thinking. Like, okay, there's ways to pressure Joe Biden on aid to Israel and things like that aren't destructive. And don't turn off the conversation. Don't lose support. So this is sort of illustrates that notion where, so if you're a middle of the road Democrat again, you're seeing these Gaza protests shutting down campuses and yelling at Jewish students walking by, and they're turned off, they're repulsed. And they think that's what the left is. And then they look at the right and they're fascists.
Right.
And then they look at the system and it's fucking broken. Yeah. And they're like, what do we do? And some of them just tap out. Yeah. Instead of building that broader support. So this is what I sort of want to get back to is and it's a two-part test. I'm going to test drive this. I'm writing a book on this, and I'm test driving this idea.
And don't forget, when you write that book, you got to come on.
It's a bumper. I got it down to a bumper sticker. Yeah. Right? Here it goes. Number one, if you have public support, do politics. Okay. If you don't have public support, do advocacy. Right. That's simple.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people have to define what advocacy is, though, because some people are going to look at advocacy and say, I'm protesting because I'm advocating this.
To get to number one, you need public support.
Yeah. And to anything, you need public support. Yeah.
So if you are going to effect change, you need to win the battle of public opinion. And that means being persuasive. So if you're doing advocacy and you're being destructive and turning people against you, you're never going to get to number one.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge is how are you smart? And sometimes it takes time. It took the conservative movement 50 years to get rid of Wade, right? And a lot of people are impatient and they think, we want a revolution. And Egberto, I don't know about you. I came from El Salvador. And
yo soy de Panamá, tú sabes eso.
To me, revolution is literally, it's my trauma. It's my childhood trauma. And revolutions are fucking awful.
Yes.
And they have more guns than we do. So
Yes,
like this
a lot more
notion
guns.
that we're gonna win, if there's a revolution, that we're gonna win it, odds are they're gonna win it. They have the Supreme Court, they have the all the courts actually, pretty much all the courts, and they have all the guns, and they are violent.
It's not the revolution that I fear, because when people have different definitions of revolution, what I do want to see is I do want to see progressives working together. And what I continuously find is that everybody decides to be factionalized. And it's interesting because the factionalization makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. In the promotion that I do, it's interesting because my faction is really just about every damn person that wants to come in and have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Earlier, I heard you talking to somebody and they mentioned, like, people are scared of disagreeing. We ought to start teaching that disagreement doesn't really mean the end of the world.
You have people on the left that talk. They need their safe space to talk about difficult issues.
Wait, so do you have the same thoughts that I have on safe? I don't like safe spaces.
Either you engage in a conversation, in a debate,
right,
and fight for what you believe in, or here's the radical part.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
But you can't sit there and say, I'm going to yell these things that I want, but don't you dare disagree with me.
I didn't realize that you also thought that way. Let me tell you, this is interesting.
Again,
because
how are you building public support?
let me tell you this, okay? I go out on the road and I talk about I don't want safe spaces, right? And we even come to the conference here and there are safe spaces that I don't go to. And one of the reasons why is I think safe spaces is no different than segregation. Okay, that's how I look at safe spaces, right? In other words, the only way for you to really engage is to be outside of your frame.
Either be out there fighting for what you believe in, or you don't have to.
If you don't want to fight,
I'm cool. I'm not saying you have to.
Right.
But you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
Right? You can't be saying I'm fighting for these things, but don't you dare, come into my safe space.
Right.
And those are the things that people sort of in that mushy middle, because they're not fully engaged,
Yeah.
But we need them.
Right.
We need them to win these battles. And they look over there and they're turned off by that. They're scared by it, right? And because they're like, oh, I don't want to intrude in somebody, and I don't want to cause harm, right? There's a lot of it causes harm.
Right.
You know what? Life is fucking harmful.
Yes.
And with Donald Trump,
it'll be even worse. Yeah.
It is there's a lot of fucking harm, and it's okay.
People don't understand, and I think, and I noticed that you're starting to push it on the site as well as things like the things that we need to take seriously. Project 2025 is real. And not only Project 25, but the powers that the Supreme Court has afforded itself is real. And the unitary presidency is real. All these things are real.
Real battles. Man.
The problem is we have had a hard time explaining this to people in a manner that they understand. The person that's coming home from work tired, it is hard to get to these people. What personally on my platform that I'm trying to do is to reach these folks by first developing this stuff called, it's an old-fashioned thing called trust.
Ooh,
weird. Trust.
Okay.
And interestingly,
so yelling at them is the way you create trust?
No. The interesting thing about it is, you hear my conversations on the radio. That's what we're building. We're trying to build it. I don't like what you're saying, but I like you. So the other thing I would tell people is
curiosity.
Exactly. I'm curious and I like you. Mm-hmm. In other words, people will stay with you if they like you.
Curiosity.
And if they like you, it's great. But anyway, Markos, we've been here talking for a few minutes. What else is up for you for the next few?
Oh my God, we got to beat Donald Trump. That's what's going up.
Yes, we won't.
And there has to be a realization. I mean, right, every day that we're talking about Joe Biden, one day we're not talking about Donald Trump.
Agreed.
Project 2025 finally went viral.
Right.
More Google searches and Taylor Swift.
Than Taylor Swift.
And Democrats want to talk about Joe Biden, who's our freaking nominee.
Yes.
And there is no magical pony candidate that can come in and do better because we are polarized. And here's a dirty secret.
Yeah.
Nobody in 2020 voted for Joe Biden.
Right.
I don't remember anybody being like, fuck yeah, Joe Biden, can't wait to vote for that guy. They voted against Donald Trump.
Now, here's where I don't know if we may disagree or not, but I simply don't have the answer. And what I mean by that is I am concerned of two things. Come October or November, a guy 81 years old that does look a bit different may get a stroke, may do that. What do we do then?
That's where Kamala Harris comes in.
Okay.
I mean, there is no mechanism right now to really swap him out. There's
Okay.
like legally.
He cannot be swapped out.
Yeah.
We got that. Right.
And so harping on this, and we swap him out. We have a 2-month battle within the Democratic Party over who the person.
I don't
is.
want to swap.
And no, but I get it. Nobody's like conservatives aren't happy with Donald Trump as their nominee.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that as well. Like nobody's happy. That's why everybody's in such a shit mood.
Right.
And they all have great reason because, God damn it, these are not too great. But nobody voted for Joe Biden in 2020, and nobody's voting for him this time. They're voting against Donald Trump. And if we've learned anything this year, is in India, you had Modi's party polling ahead of what their final results. He lost seats.
But the kicker is France.
Then it happened in Poland.
Yeah.
With Duda's party.
We got it back,
Poland said that the ruling party, and they had the whole media apparatus.
Yeah.
People decided no. It happened in the UK, where the polling was actually more accurate.
The UK was for good.
Yeah, and then now
France was the issue. The France was nobody believed what happened in the second round.
People do not want fascists.
Yeah.
And this is not an international component. Donald Trump underperformed his polling in the primary in every single contested primary. He polled better than he actually performed. The Republicans polled better in 2022. When I was saying Democrats are going to win this election, Republicans were polling better. Everybody's talking about red wave. Democrats won the midterm election.
Well, if you want to hear something, Markos, is this, right? I've been printing, and you could see a few articles that I wrote on your site. We are really headed for a Democratic landslide unless we screw it up. Because they've given us, they have honestly, I don't know, I speak to a lot of conservatives. They've given us a platform for a landslide. Only we can screw it up. And people don't, you look at they have given us a platform. The pathway.
If our people turn out the way they've been turning out in special elections,
think about that.
In 2022, the way they turned out in France, Poland, India,
landslide.
In the UK, if they turn out in that way, I'm not gonna say landslide. That's a little vicious, but we're gonna win this thing.
Markos,
and we gotta do the work.
Look, listen to this. Biden won by 7 million votes and lost, and could have lost with 40,000 votes change. I think we should be able to. 40,000 votes could have changed the election worse than what Hillary Clinton lost by. But anyway, look. So you're upcoming. You're coming with a new book coming out.
I'm working on a book for me.
Yes.
Because I've been thinking through what happens in 2025.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a media apocalypse. People are going to tune out.
Right.
So what happens? What is that new way of thinking? That's not Marjorie Taylor Greene said something stupid today, and look at Lauren Boebert, and she's so stupid, and get into something that's a little more substantive. Here's a crazy. Okay. Yeah. Here's a quiz. Quiz. You ready?
Ready to go.
There is one bill in all of Congress that would cap credit card interest rates at 18%.
Right.
So right now it goes up to 35%.
Right.
It's a regressive tax on the poor. There's one person that has a bill to cap interest rates at 18%. It's not Bernie Sanders, not Elizabeth Warren, it's not Sherrod Brown, it's not AOC.
It's a Republican.
It's Josh fucking Hawley.
That's what I just said. It's a Republican.
Not only a Republican, an insurrectionist.
But a MAGA insurrectionist, yeah.
First of all, that's kind of embarrassing. Why aren't?
Well, wait a minute. You have the answer. You know what that is. Yeah.
So what happens next year if we say, you know what, let's work with Josh Hawley and let's make this thing pass? Right now, I think Daily Kos would absolutely
explode.
They would have a rebellion.
Yes.
If I said, let's work with that. Because it's like, no, we're not going to work with an insurrectionist. But you know what? He can go nowhere. He's one of 100. He's in the Senate. What if we get his vote?
The truth of the matter...
What if we make that path? That would help millions of people in fuck Wall Street.
But you know what? That's enough people, even on your site, you put something like that and you get slaughtered.
And because I haven't made that argument yet. And I haven't really explained why it makes sense to do that. Well, because the old me...
Yeah.
And this is partly we're teams.
Yeah.
It's us versus them. What if we now say, okay, we had that, now we have parity and everything's broken. Nothing's working. How about we change the way we do things? And fuck that guy. But in this case, maybe not fuck that guy.
Well, you know what?
Just in this case, we won't.
It is it is your site, so you would get more attention and people would listen more. But every time I bring up something that is counterintuitive, that somehow saves me a little bit on the site, I'm slaughtered.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you that.
And I will say that I do have more of a platform. And
Yes.
I haven't really used it in the past.
Yeah.
In a way that I'm planning on using it, which is why I'm working on this book, because I want to really nail my thinking down. Because it is a lot easier to go on a limb and say something unpopular if you're very grounded in that belief, as opposed to like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is
Yeah.
like, I am going to be I need to be fully grounded and ready to go into that battle. Because I'm going to have to wear like fire retardant suit. And like a bomb, you know.
Well, actually, it'll actually bring in, I personally think, taking that stance and getting it, like what I do is I like to take articles from other folks and expand on it, even in the other platforms that I partake in, right? I think it'll actually change a tone, because I think a tone change is tone change is definitely needed, and people need to understand, like, think, just use your mind, don't just come out and, because this is a party line. Use your head.
That's the hope. And really, I just think of all the people that would be helped with an 18% cap on rates, and how it would fuck the Wall Street banks. And like, you would say no to that because Josh Hawley.
You shouldn't.
He ain't going nowhere.
You shouldn't say that.
He ain't going nowhere.
You shouldn't say
you know
that.
what? Election time, great. Let's run a candidate against him. Let's try to beat him. But he's not going anywhere.
Markos Moulitsas, el director, el público, el señor Daily Kos. Thank you, my brother.
Man, appreciate you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for everything.
All right, take care, man.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.